what could be a future that we would like that is a little bit more practical as we're looking around the right fielders that are free agents alone. We're not just talking trade pieces. There are some great free agents on the market. Mr. Anthony Santander, come on down and be a future Philly, why don't you? So he had quite a strong season as a 30-year-old outfielder. He's been solid. He's been consistent for several years. And for this past season, it was kind of like a career best for him in a couple of areas. He was a first-time All-Star this year, set career highs with 44 home runs, 102 RBIs, with an 814 OPS, which was his highest across any 162-game stretch, so any season. And then also, there have been some different teams that we've seen as fits for him, whether it's the Orioles, the Cardinals, the Guardians, or the Phillies. I like it. I think that we talked about them needing an outfielder that would help offensively producing as well. And I think if you're looking to bolster, you've got a guy that's right on that 30-year mark. So he's ready now. He's not a prospect that you're waiting on and hoping, but he's not over the hill yet. He's right there kind of in the mix of, I guess you could say, the peak of his career in that sense, and not peak in it. He's got more to grow. But I think for the consistency we've seen from Anthony over the years, and the fact that I think that the Phillies are looking for that outfield piece, he could be a good fit for them. And so I am encouraged to hear his name continue to be bounced around. We've talked about him before, and looking at his numbers and coming off of a career best high in his first year ever as an All-Star, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, the power would certainly translate to Citizens Bank Park. Past 4 years, 44, 28, 33, 18. And that's what that weird left field wall too in Baltimore. So that Tyler, did you do that math last time we talked about him?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like 4 more home runs?
It was like
here?
4 or 5 more home runs he would have hit in Citizens Bank Park as opposed to Camden Yards.
Yeah, that's really intriguing. The fact he's a switch hitter is really intriguing. He's not a good defensive player by any means, but that's fine. I would love him. I think Passan or somebody speculated he might get right around $100 million. Mm-hmm. So that could be a little rich for their blood. That's my concern there.
Yes.
Is he fits because he could be a right-handed power bat behind Bryce Harper, but I fear they're going to be priced out. And that does not mean the Phillies are cheap. Because anytime you say something, that might be too rich for their blood, people are, immediately are like, what do you expect, Jordan? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, okay, there's only so. Because if you spend, let's say, $100 million on Anthony Santander and it takes you above the threshold, which it will, you're then paying like 50% more on top of his contract already. So, there is a limit here.
Yeah, and I know there's
and he's good enough that he's expensive.
Exactly, and you do need someone that you're going to have to spend money on because that means it's a piece that's an addition, that's an upgrade. If you're getting someone for cheap, that means it's a risky move. That means it's a Whit Merrifield type of a move that it's a hope and see and hope that you can get the best out of them. I know as you talk about that wall in Baltimore, they are actually changing their outfield,
I saw that.
Which is wild, but nonetheless, you don't have to worry about that at Citizens Bank Park. You can smash more home runs. And for Anthony Santander, for him as a right fielder, So hold on, I'll get back to that in a second. For Anthony Santander, the fact that he's a right fielder for some might not make sense for the Phillies to add him. Of course, you have Nick Castellanos, who is your everyday right fielder, but there's flexibility there. There's been conversation around, can he play center field or can he play left field and you slot Brandon Marchand in center field? There seems like there could be some flexibility in terms of the outfield makeup, where it's not the expectation that he would come in and replace Nick Castellanos. It actually would just make you have to tinker and change up the look of what the outfield is and maybe have him switch to left field. So if he is able and open, and I know 100 million is the number that I saw floating around for what he's potentially going to go for, if that is possible for the Phillies, I think you just have to get a strong outfielder. We've been so focused on who's a left fielder, who's a center fielder. Maybe the best fit is a guy that's currently a right fielder that requires you to have to make him switch into left field.
Yeah, and you have two decent center field options there that can, make up for the difference.
Exactly.
All right, I just pulled it up because I knew it was in the news. The Baltimore. In Baltimore.
Yes.
They're changing the dimensions. The plans were just announced on Friday. Mm-hmm. It's still going to stay 333 feet at, the dead center of it. However, the rest of the wall over towards the bullpen area will start to be pulled in at varying distances between 9 and 20 feet. And instead of needing clear parts that were once 384 and 398, those deeper parts will now be 374 and 376. The height of the wall will no longer be 13 feet, but rather 8 feet in some areas and 6 feet 11 in some others. So Anthony Santander is probably like, you bastards.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because
I could have made 25 extra million had you had this wall 4 years ago.
Literally, you're costing money. You're costing players money. So as you mentioned with that report that came out, as the general manager, Mike Elias, said, they basically took accountability and said, listen, we messed up. They're trying to find a happier medium, as they say, to fix the wall because they felt like with the decision to push it back prior to 2022, they did too much. And now they're trying to fix it and correct it. And as you mentioned, to make sure that the new wall is not as shallow as the original ballpark either, but they want to find that happy medium between the move that was made 3 years ago. So
and it's not going to affect any seats, it says also.
Yeah, just interesting that they're correcting the issues because everybody knows that that left field wall is disastrous and is costing players and costing games and costing money. And there's a lot of things that are being impacted by it. So happy to see that they're looking to do that, especially for when the Phillies are playing down there at Camden Yards. But for anybody like Anthony Santander, it still is not a reason to stay in Baltimore. Come on over to Philly because we have a great outfield for you, and you don't have to worry about the walls or issues like that.